I wonder how much of the advertising boom in recent years has been done by venture capital money in a lot of these places where they've said, we've got venture capital money, we've got to get the word out because we have to get to scale and get all these people in. And now that probably goes away for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, this has shaken up the startup world. So now Zoom is worth 50% more than the entire airline industry, which is hard to wrap your head around. There was a great...
Okay, at some point when this is all over, isn't Zoom going to be a massive short? Don't you think eventually people kind of like, you know what, I'm not going to do Zoom happy hours with my friends anymore now that the quarantine's over. Don't you think when this is over, I'm timestamping it, Zoom is a short. How's that?
I mean, yes, at some point I think there will be a 40% decline in short order. Or maybe not. We'll see.
Like, don't you think we're overdoing it on the Zoom calls? That like, this is like the whole thing that every blog post could be a tweet and every book could be a blog post. Aren't we at the point where people are just doing this because they're bored, and every Zoom call could probably just be a conference call?
Every Zoom meeting could be a Slack.
Yes, right. Yeah, exactly. Like, hey, look we saw all 40 of you. Like, is that really helpful to anyone?
Can we just put it out there on the record? You're not recommending anybody short Zoom?
No, I'm not recommending anybody short Zoom.
So there was
I'm just saying eventually I think that the stuff that's really, really popular right now and people are latching onto, that's probably not going to be the case coming out of this. Maybe I'm wrong.
There was a chart showing the Uber daily download rank on iPhones. And for the first few months of the year, it's been top 50. And that has just absolutely crashed. This is an amazing chart.
Do you think that someone like Uber is going to be okay from this, though, and the fact that they have the Uber Eats where they deliver food to people? Is that keeping them afloat in some ways?
I really don't know.
Okay. Have you guys been doing takeout at all?
Not too much. Here, like, I think I did it on my birthday. And
I feel like I don't know what's safe anymore.
Yeah.
Like, is it safe to get takeout? We were Googling it last night and listening to some NPR stuff about what you need to do if you get takeout. And they said it's hard to be transmitted through food. But I feel like there's so many little gray areas like that you just don't know. Like, when you get your box from Amazon, do you leave it on your front porch for a whole day and then wipe it down with the Lysol wipes?
We put gloves on, and then we put the box directly into the recycling bin.
That's what we've been doing too, but it's
a lot. At some point, you're going to touch something that somebody else touched who is wrapping it up.
Probably, and I mean, I'm surprised. I haven't been out much. We've gone on a few hikes here and there, and seen people around the neighborhood. When is it going to happen when everyone's wearing masks? Doesn't that just seem like a natural outcome? Like, if people are out about this summer, everyone's going to be wearing masks. And what's the hot fashion accessory going to be with your mask? That's what I'd like to know. But don't you think that's what they do in all the Asian countries? They wear masks, and I feel like there's almost a social stigma to it where people have to get over it, and it's just going to have to be everyone is wearing masks every single time they go out.
Maybe. So you said that your podcast listening is a bear market. Mine's down a little bit, and I think I miss commuting, which, I mean, I had a great commute. 40 minutes into the city, 10-minute walk to the office. So
you do think you would ever say that before? I had a great commute.
So that was almost
like, people always complain about their commutes. Now you're going, oh man, I had a great commute.
So that was like 2.5 hours a day. Great downtime to listen to this stuff, and obviously that's gone way down. But it makes sense because sports podcasts are obviously one of the hot ones, and that's got to be way down.
I did see a study saying that business podcasts are up, and we're doing 2 a week, and our listens and audience have increased. But I can see, I mean, there's 75% of the podcasts I typically listen to, I have no reason to listen to now, and I don't see, it'll take a while for me to get back on them. I just don't care at the moment, unfortunately. Yeah. And it's one of those other things, like, I for some reason I just don't miss sports. I'm sure when it comes back I'll be happy, but it's one of those things that there's just so much else on my mind that I don't even really care. And let me throw this out there. When does NFL training camp start? August? No way that happens. I think the NFL season, there's no way they play a full season. I'm throwing that out there right now. I thought like it'd be great. The NBA would be the first thing to come back. They'd squeeze it in. They'd have some playoffs. I'm not sure that's maybe they'll figure out a good thing. They're talking about playing all the games in Las Vegas and keeping everyone in the same place. I'm doubting we're going to see Tom Brady play 16 games in a Tampa Bay Buccaneers jersey this year.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I don't think that by the fall people are going to be ready to go to these games, and I just doubt that's going to happen. I think it's going to be a shortened season or extended somehow. I don't see how that happens at this point.
Last week, things were seeming incredibly grim with no end in sight. And I think at this point, anybody would take a date. If you told me August 1st, I would take it. It's just the unknown is making this incredibly difficult.
I think the hardest part is there really is no, I mean, there's light at the end of the tunnel in terms of getting ahead of this and getting treatments. But from what I understand, without a vaccine, this thing will never be completely gone, right? So we can get better forms of treatment, and we can make it so the hospitals aren't so overrun. I think that's the worst part to me, is just that this thing could linger with us for a long time in that. So I feel like there's just going to be a lot of fits and starts with people getting back to normal and the economy. And I feel like we can't really, maybe I'm wrong about this, from what I've read, that we can't really declare victory until there's a vaccine.
True.
Which they keep saying is 12 to 18 months away. So I've been thinking about this, and a lot of people have been comparing this to like the Great Depression in terms of the economic numbers, but I don't think that is right, because this really is a medical crisis and not an economic one. And so we watched the movie 1917 this weekend. Really good movie. Yeah. Got me thinking. I did a little more research on the war and figuring out, like, this really is like war, where the country completely stops and this is the only thing we focus on. So I looked in World War II, there were 16 million people who served in the army. That was 11% of the population at the time for the U.S. And obviously whole industry stopped, and a lot of them shifted their capacity to do something else. So isn't that the better analogy here, that this really is like war? And so you have these periods of uncertainty when you don't know when the war is going to be over. You have no idea when the end date is. You think there's going to be peace eventually, but you don't know. And doesn't it feel like for us that last victory is going to be when the vaccine is here? And that's when everyone can throw their hands up and go, okay, this is it. Because until then, until there's a vaccine, people can still get sick. Obviously, the people who have been sick hopefully won't be able to get it again. And that's why I feel like the economy can start up a little bit here and there, but people are still going to be tentative. Don't you feel like we're going to have, even with some good news like this, we're going to have these periods where for a number of months, we're just going to have this thing looming over us, and it can't really fully be lifted off of our shoulders until the vaccine is here?
Yeah, you make some very good points. There's going to be people who, let's say that the social distancing does work, that the shutdown, the work from home does work, and it seems to be working. There's going to be people who are like, see, this was such a joke. This was totally overblown. And Adam Butler tweeted this a few weeks ago, and I think it's like one of the most profound things I've seen in a long time. He said, if social distancing is successful, it will be viewed by most people as unnecessary in retrospect. This is the essence of risk management and why so few manage risk.
Right. And honestly, if the government would have gotten completely ahead of this thing and shut the country down right when we figure out what's going on in China, no one would have ever adhered to it, because they would have said, no, that's crazy. There's nothing going on here. It's not going to come to our shores. This is nothing worse than the flu. And honestly, the sad thing is, it took for it to hit here and to push our hospital capacity for people to act. And it's like a chicken or the egg thing. Like, people had to see this, and now hopefully if it happens again in the future, we'll be more prepared. But I think that's part of the problem, is people had to see this damage for them to act so much and to get the country to have such a concerted effort. And I do hope that things get better. But I think in the meantime, until we hit that victory day, and again, maybe something else happens in the meantime and this thing just, I don't know, peters out on its own. It doesn't sound like that's going to happen. I think that's kind of what happened in the 1918 flu. It just kind of went out on its own because so many people got it. But don't you think by the end of that, if we have these stops and starts and people aren't quite ready to be going back to normal, my concern is there's going to be so many people who are going to have their brains broken and be stuck in this pessimism, doom camp, that they'll never be able to get out of that, and they'll always think people's behavior is going to be changed forever. This is something that is never going to leave us, and then when that victory happens and we do get the vaccine and people can finally move on, they'll be completely left behind.
So we had V-Day, using your word analogy. We had V-Day in 1944, 45, I think 45.
45, I think, yeah.
And hopefully we'll have one in 2020. That would be terrific.